How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. So ever since this whole coronavirus thing has started, from day one, we've had obviously the specter of forced vaccinations hanging over our head. The idea that at some point, some government or entity would try to, by force, physically vaccinate people. And it appears that that is actually happening now. Not here in the United States yet, luckily. I think they know better than to open that can of worms. But it's happening in Austria, or at least it's scheduled to happen in Austria. If you haven't been following what's been going on in Europe, they've been imposing a lot of strict COVID controls and mandates in a lot of different parts of Europe. Austria specifically just did like a discriminatory lockdown of only vaccinated people. Like the unvaccinated people were forced to be locked down, and the unvaccinated people could do whatever they want. And of course, it didn't do anything. And now they've recently expanded that to everyone gets locked down, showing you that you can't outlast them by doing what they say. They're gonna come for you eventually. And just hoping that you're gonna get eaten last is not a great strategy. So I definitely think you should, fight these evil things as much as you can. All these restrictions, all these controls, whatever. You can't wait until it gets serious enough because by then you'll have nothing left. But they have announced that I think in February, Austria announces Europe's first nationwide vaccine mandate and reimposes lockdowns as COVID-19 soars. And as far as I know, this is much stricter than like the OSHA mandate that they're trying to require here in the U.S. I think it's a universal, everyone just has to get vaccinated. Let's see what the article says. Austria is going back to a national lockdown and plans to become the first country in Europe to make COVID-19 vaccinations mandatory for all eligible people as the nation's coronavirus crisis deepens, Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg announced Friday. He said his government would look to impose the national vaccine requirement from February 1st. Just under 66% of Austria's total population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, one of the lower rates in the European Union where cases are surging. But there's places like Gibraltar that have 100% vaccine rates, and they still have surging COVID because the vaccines are garbage. They don't work they don't provide even any kind of protection after a few months, and even during those months, it's not a high level protection. You can still get it, you can still die from it, you can still transmit it. It's absolutely insane that people are sticking to this narrative and continue to pushing it. But as we know, the second rule of SJWs is they always double down. So that is what they're continuing to do. Not unpredictable at all. But this is definitely a onerous thing happening that they're going to physically, I don't know, hold people down and vaccinate them, I guess. I don't know what the consequences of defying the mandate are here. I guess we'll see. Let's continue to read this article. It says the national lockdown starts Monday and will last for 10 days minimum, could be extended to a further 10 days. We already know lockdowns don't work. This is an endemic disease now. It's a respiratory virus. It spreads easily. It's like staying at home for a few days is only going to cause massive economic problems and raise the rates of suicide and mental health problems. And, there's so many other things that we know work for making yourself resistant to this type of disease, and this disease specifically, that no one ever talks about. They're literally willing to force vaccinate and lock the entire country down for weeks at a time before they're willing to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be fucking obese, or maybe you should make sure your vitamin D levels are good, make sure your vitamin C levels are up to speed, make sure you don't have metabolic syndrome, make sure you take care of your 15 pre-existing conditions. But make sure you get off your ass once in a while. No, but they're not willing to say any of that. They're willing to literally destroy the economy before they just tell people to lose weight or get in shape. We don't want a fifth wave. We don't want a sixth and seventh. Okay, so you were unable to stop waves 1 through 4 with these tactics, but they're going to work so great for waves 5 through 7. Give me a break. The move comes only after days Austria took the step, unprecedented, of imposing lockdown measures for all those who were not fully vaccinated. Yeah, and a fat lot of good that did. They obviously don't know what the fuck they're doing. Let's see if it has more information on the mandatory vaccination order. Asked by CNN from what age the mandatory vaccination order would apply, the Austrian Chancellery said details are still to come from what age and when you're considered fully vaccinated. That's another thing. They're continually pushing, like, we already know, and everyone predicted this and knew what was going on, that soon the people who even have 2 shots are not going to be considered fully vaccinated because you don't have the 3rd booster. And soon the people who've had the 3rd booster are going to be considered not vaccinated if they haven't had it within the last 6 months or something. So it's completely predictable. And people who fall for this still are just absolutely retarded in my mind. Um, okay, let me see if we can find out. I want to try and find out more details on what they plan on doing. So obviously they're floating this idea. The um, the idea of them, physically forcing people to get vaccinated is we knew it was going to happen eventually somewhere, and it's much more likely to happen in countries where they don't have the right to legally bear arms than it is here in the U.S. Because you can imagine the type of shit show that would occur in the United States if they tried to do, door to door forced vaccines or something like that. But hopefully we'll see some kind of revolutionary upheaval in Austria to oppose this. But it's definitely scary stuff, but it could be a watershed moment too. Depending on how it goes in Austria, it could be the complete end of anyone else trying to force it, or it could be just the beginning, and it could start to spread all over Europe and elsewhere if they think that it quote unquote works. And they're not going to just stop on their own. Like I said, they always double down, even though it's been proven over the last few months that none of these policies work. They're continuing to do it anyway. So we can't just rely on them coming to their senses, that's for sure. Let me know what you guys think about this, and if you think anything like that could ever happen here. I tend to think that they're not that stupid, but they want to. They definitely want to.